Okay, welcome to Straight from the Hive. This is Alan Turanski, President Beekeeper at GloryBee, and thanks for joining my podcast. Really excited to have my special guest, Sarah Red-Laird, Executive Director and founder of Bee Girl organization. Sarah, thanks for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to sit down and talk with you.
Yeah, it's great to catch up. So we'll have some fun with the questions and maybe throw a few small curveballs at you along the way. But let's just start out with what has inspired your work with bees. I know you've been doing it for a while, so feel free to give us a little background, but really want to hear about what inspires you.
Oh gosh, I think that the answer is in the question. I have been doing this for a while. I started into the world of bees and bee research in 2009, and I'm just endlessly fascinated still by these little creatures. There's so much more to learn and so much more to discover. And honeybees themselves, there's just, every year, peer-reviewed article after peer-reviewed article comes out about different discoveries that they're making that help us as people and humans. There's a couple of articles this year in in Psychology Today looking at dopamine in honeybees, and that will help us understand addiction in humans more. And
wow,
that was really fascinating. There's so much to know. And then I've also been tiptoeing into the world of native bees as well. And there's thousands of native bees in the world and in this country. There's hundreds in this state. And so there's just more opportunities for knowledge and to learn and to observe and to find new things. And so I just, not only just for what they do for us, for our food and of course, the beautification of the environment, and the biodiversity, but also I just love them as themselves. I just love learning all the things about the functional honeybee hive and about different individual native bees and what they do and their lives. And I'm taking this course right now, online course through Yale called The Science of Well-Being with Dr. Laurie Santos. Okay. And one of the things that we did was explore, it's in the realm of positive psychology, and we explored our character strengths. And my number one character strength is love of wisdom, and curiosity was number 2, and creativity was number 3. And so I think I just have the perfect job.
Yes.
Because I just get to learn for a living.
And bees provide a lot of wisdom, and you start to sort of understand how they go about things. So yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it. Well, being around bees for most of my life, I can share that I'm still fascinated and amazed. And there's so many discoveries. I was just met a beekeeper from Chile, and they've got some amazing honey from Chile that they've done testing on, and this, honey is killing like the 3 major bacterias like salmonella, and it's just incredible. It's like, it just blows your mind, and I cease to be like, the end of the fascination just doesn't end. So I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
that's another part of it, is just in the last 10 years, I've traveled the world because of bees, and I also love travel. I don't know if that's a character strength or not on there, but I guess love of wisdom and curiosity would be like being interested in the world and other cultures. And because of bees, and because of being able to go around the world to help out other nonprofits with their projects and do speaking gigs and kids education gigs, I've been to Scotland and Africa and Wales, England, Switzerland, all Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've gotten to just, even in this own country, go to some really amazing places and meet some amazing people because of bees and because of our connections to each other through bees. I've been on some pretty prestigious, fancy rooftops in New York City, like the Waldorf Astoria, checking out those bees.
Yeah.
And I've been on the top of a historic candy shop in Philadelphia, checking out those bees. Actually, we pulled some of those bees out for an observation hive for a kids program that I did there. But yeah, I've just been able to see and do some of the coolest stuff because of bees.
Well, I know kind of your curiosity and what you do is you're certainly an educator, and you get to share the curiosity with others, and that's got to be rewarding to see how sort of that is a seed that you plant and it sort of grows pretty quickly. Grows pretty quickly. So, well, I gotta ask. I always love to ask this question. What is your favorite type of honey that you've ever had?
Heather honey from Scotland.
Oh,
yeah, hands down my favorite. It just it's so fragrant, and it smells and tastes just like the Scottish Highlands smell when heather's in bloom. And I just have such visceral memories of going up to Scotland for the first time. Tom Seeley was keynoting their conference one year, and he and I were chatting about Scotland, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually Scottish, and all of my family's from Scotland, and one day I'd love to go there. And he was like, oh, well, why don't you just come and speak at the conference? I'm speaking out. I'll put in a good word for you. And I was like, what? And then a few weeks later, I was in Scotland, and I have this really clear memory of I took the train from London up into the Highlands and coming up on the misty moors and seeing just the blankets of purple, and that experience was just amazing. And then there was bees out in the heather next to the train, so I could even see bees greeting me as I rolled up through the Highlands. And then as part of the conference, we went out into the with the local beekeeper, Tony, and went out into the Highlands and met their native Scottish black bee, who's a little feisty, and saw the honey, heather honey harvest, or not really harvest, but the gathering of the bees of the heather honey in the process. And it was just absolutely amazing. And the people of Scotland are just so wonderful. And I was really well received, and my message was well received. And so yeah, I just have really good, I think it's all of the things and that's what I do love about honey too, because it's a way to experience place. Because when you have a honey, especially a local honey or a single source honey that is coming from where you're standing, where you're around, our honey here that I sell in Ashland and a few little boutiques is just from Ashland. So, and primarily from the south facing hills. And so you can look out across the valley and see where your honey comes from. And so honey, I think, connects us back to place and connects us back to the bees and back to the environment and back to each other.
Yeah, I love that. And I grew up around experiencing that. And I remember talking to, friends and classmates at school and as early as elementary school, and talking to them about, blackberry honey. And they're like, what is that? I just buy regular honey. And I'm like, I don't even know what regular honey is. I just I've got this whole I don't know, post I want to make about sort of regular honey, because it was sort of planted in my brain from inexperience, like you're saying, just standing and seeing and tasting. And somebody's talking about regular honey, and I just had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, totally. I have kids often when we do kids programs, kids will say like, "Oh, I don't really like honey," because they're used to like squeezy bare pasteurized honey, and it just tastes like sweetener. It doesn't really taste. I mean, it tastes like honey, but I know you know. And so, and I'll be like, "Oh, well, how about taste this honey? I got this from a local beekeeper, and it's from right here, and this is what and the flowers in your environment taste like. Just give it a taste." And they're blown away. They can't believe it. Like we have to have an adult like right there, making sure that the whole fist doesn't end up going
exactly
the jar with the toothpick to do when they're tasting honey, because they love it. I've never had one kid after them saying that they don't really like honey to taste local honey, and then or just single source honey or raw, delicious, real honey, and then say, "Oh, I didn't. Yeah, still not my thing."
Well, I have to go to Scotland now and try heather honey, so that'll be on my bucket list. But just tell our guests a little bit how you were first introduced to Save the Bee. That'd be great.
Yeah, through my kids program, actually. Yeah, you Save the Bee in your first year or two. I think I was one of the first people that you reached out to and said, hey, we really love what you're doing and we want to support your work. And can we give you some dollars for your kids' stuff? And I said, absolutely. And I remember the first year I got a physical big check from you at, at your bee days at GloryBee. And that was like one of my favorite memories. I'm just getting this huge.
I mean, everybody wants a big check, right? It's like everybody. Who doesn't want a big check?
Who doesn't want a big check? Yeah. I felt like I was on a 1980s game show.
Yeah, totally.
It's amazing.
Big checks are fun. We like to keep it fun, so that's awesome. I want to dig in a little bit to your Bee Friendly Vineyards work. And, there's probably a few different questions, but I'll start off with, why are Bee Friendly Vineyards important?
I think there's just so much potential with vineyards in Oregon. There's over 40,000 acres currently planted and growing by thousands a year of vineyards in Oregon. And unfortunately, the way that vineyards are traditionally or conventionally planted, they create pollinator deserts. So wine grapes themselves are self-pollinating. They don't really need a pollinator to move the pollen around. And so oftentimes pollinators and bees aren't really a consideration in the design of a vineyard. However, bees need all the help that they can get. And to me, all the help that they can get comes back to nutrition always.
Yes.
The bees have so many things coming at them through pesticides and climate change and drought and fire and disease and pests. And the one thing that can make them more resilient to all of these factors is a good, healthy diet. And they need flowers and they need nutrient dense flower pollen and nectar, and they need a lot of it. And so I just see our agricultural landscapes are places that we're stewarding anyways. It would be harder to go out into the middle of Forest Service land or BLM land and plant a pollinator garden. But why not create refugia, biological refugia within our agricultural systems where we're already there and we're already working and we're already managing those landscapes? And I understand that many vineyards do spray and they spray chemicals, so they don't really want to plant between the rows where they're luring bees in. And then if they do have to spray for some sort of a pest incident, but there's still so much land on vineyards, flyways, the alleyways, the headlands. There's so much potential that we could still be utilizing to plant for our pollinators.
Well, I love the project. I think it's super cool and it's super important. How has the project grown since 2019?
Quite a bit. Yeah. The idea of the project sparked in 2012. And that was my first trip up to the Willamette Valley to try and talk kind of like the big famous vineyards up in the Willamette Valley. And I was working as a subcontractor for the Bee Friendly Farming Initiative. And I wanted to get the Southern Oregon pear growers and the Willamette Valley wine grape growers on board with Bee Friendly Farming. And I had a minuscule budget of about like $200 or $250, something to cover like half of the state, including travel, to try and pull this off. So suffice it to say, that didn't work. I just didn't have the bandwidth and the budget at that time to be able to like really see those projects through. But I did plant a lot of seeds, if you will. The folks in Southern Oregon at the and pears management has transitioned a few times, and I kept up with them. But the more management transitioned in these vineyards, or excuse me, the pears, it was just kind of harder and harder to keep up with them. But I've still kept my toe in the door with a lot of the vineyards. And then in 2012, I was tasting at Irvine and Roberts, a vineyard here in Ashland that's very environmentally conscious, and they manage their grapes organically. And Doug, one of the vineyard owners, I don't even remember. I think he just came to say hi and asked what I do for a living when they were first getting started. And he wanted to get to know more folks in the community. And I said, oh, I'm a beekeeper and I do bee research. And he was like, oh, we'd love to have some honeybees out here in the farm and be bee friendly. And I was like, well, that's not really being bee friendly. Like being bee friendly would be planting flowers and providing nutrition for bees. And so he said he was into it. And so I worked with them.
Awesome.
And we started really small. We just planted like a 1,400 square foot patch of sunflowers, which were easy to grow and easy to water. And it was super successful and they were beautiful. There was just an array of bees, honeybees, bumblebees, sunflower bees, all these native bees that were not within miles of the vineyard, just magically showed up in this patch of sunflowers. And we got so excited about it. We doubled it the next year. And then we also started doing inter-row planting. And then I transitioned away from that project. And I actually just saw Doug a few days ago and it was so dear. He was like, I just wanted to come up and say thanks. Like we've totally adjusted our whole entire vineyard management program as far as planting and cover cropping. And he said, before you came along, I thought that vineyards had to look like a golf course. And that's what a good vineyard was. But I now realize that it's okay for them to be messy and full of flowers and full of quote unquote weeds. And so, and it hasn't had any detriment to the vines or the grapes themselves. And if anything, they're looking great. And so that's awesome. That makes me really happy.
Kind of a win-win, and kind of back to that, idea of the soil health and just, you got to be thankful for those that think of, they're farming and they're growing as being stewards of something even bigger than what they're growing. So that's
100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing is like, our Bee Friendly Vineyards participants they're stewards of the land and they are interested in biodiversity and ecology. And they understand that is a win-win. It makes a great wine. And we're now starting to see the fruits of the labor. Have I said that before in this interview already? But the first vintage of wine from one of our official Bee Friendly Vineyards up in the Willamette Valley at Trace Adam Wine just was released. And I had some of it when I was up there this summer monitoring, and it's really good. And so now we're working with, up in the Willamette, we're working with Bloodstone McDaniel's wine, with Hopewell Wine, which has a test vineyard at Bethel Heights Vineyard. And we're doing some seed experiments there for in-row planting, actually. Working with Mimi Castile because she really uses like next to no chemical inputs in her vineyard. So it's a safe place for flowers to grow in between the vines. And then we're continuing our work with Trace Adam and their Ribbon Ridge and their Coast Range vineyards. And so not only are we planting and adjusting mowing and adjusting spraying programs to be more bee friendly, we're doing research and monitoring. So we're looking to see, like, can we show with data that this is working? Because to me, it's not bee friendly unless you can prove it.
Yeah.
Like I want to know that it's working and I want the data to show it's working. And so do our growers. So we say that our habitat initiatives are data informed, farmer rancher driven.
That's cool.
I'm not doing this to publish in a super competitive industry publication like the journal Nature or anything. I'm doing it for the farmers themselves and for the land and for the bees to show them the data so we can just continually improve. And then also when I do talks and keynotes around the country to share the data to show what we're finding to hopefully inspire other farmers to do the same.
No, I mean, you got to start somewhere, start with those that are willing to give it a go, but, you ultimately want to prove it out. So that makes a ton of sense to me. And what's been the biggest surprise or a surprise while working on this vineyard project or projects? Is there one thing that kind of stood out as like, wow, I didn't expect this, whatever it is?
Yeah, mowing. So at Trace Adam, we Mimi Castillo has really never mowed her vineyard that we have been working in. So it's always like a glorious, delicious mess of flowers and what have you. But at the Coast Range and Ribbon Ridge vineyards, I talked the owner and the vineyard manager into stopping mowing in specific areas. So those kind of not between, they actually don't mow for as long as they possibly can between the vineyards until it just gets so crazy in there that the workers can't get through. But for the most part, we don't do mowing in the alleyways, the headlands. And it is absolutely amazing to see what happens in May and June and even into July. There's just an explosion of wildflowers, and a lot of them are Oregon native wildflowers. And there's just instantly bees all over them. And not only bees, there's even one section of the Coast Range vineyard that's a bunch of lawn daisies, and it is flooded with beneficial wasps, these little teeny tiny wasps that eat the bugs that predate the grapes. And so by just not mowing, by just not doing something, they've created biological pest control.
That's really cool. Yeah. Like a win-win-win all the way around. That's fantastic. What is kind of your hope, vision for these vineyard projects in the future?
Well, there's just one of me currently. I just hired a new assistant, and so there's 1.5 of me now, which is awesome.
Hey, you got up 50%. That's a good increase. Yeah.
But I would like to start, one of our goals for 2023 is to start a Bee Friendly Vineyards ambassador program where we can have volunteers that are just really interested in BGO's work and interested in the work that we specifically do with vineyards to just learn more about our data and what we're finding and what we're recommending to our vineyards and what we're seeing that's working, and just have some fun facts memorized and some inspirational stories memorized. And so and this is for people that enjoy going to wine tasting rooms and chatting it up with the process from the folks in the tasting room, or the vineyard managers or owners that they stumble across, or folks that might already be in some capacity as interns or in just some capacity in the wine industry, and just kind of some talking points and some ideas and some inspirations for them to share with other folks in the wine industry, because there's a lot of people that are really interested in this and interested in what we're doing, and I can only be in so many places at once. So I think it would be awesome to just get a crew of volunteers out there helping to spread the word about things that vineyard managers can be doing to make little changes to make their vineyards more bee friendly.
Well, that's perfect. I'm glad we're doing the podcast. Then we can cast it out and see if we can find some ambassadors along the journey. So, well, I always like to ask, and I know you're going to have a plethora of ideas and suggestions, but always want our audience to just be able to take away, along with everything else, what are some of the best ways that they can support bees and beekeepers in their daily lives?
Support beekeepers by buying local honey, and, do be an informed consumer and really know the brand, and a trusted brand. GloryBee does an amazing job sourcing single origin honey and working with beekeepers and being fair with their beekeepers. I've worked with you guys for almost maybe a decade now. And I just absolutely, I love, I have some coffee honey from you all too. Yes. That I really, really love. That's really, really interesting. So, and my other favorite honey from you is your Montana white clover honey.
Clover, yes.
Sparkling and effervescent and delicious. But anywho, so buy local honey, buy honey from your local beekeepers or folks that you can trust that have brand integrity. And then back to nutrition, just plant flowers. And if you kind of I'll give you 2 ways that you can engage in supporting bees through nutrition. One is just blowing up your whole entire yard and planting a pollinator garden.
Okay.
I did in my own house. Then when I moved in with my boyfriend, I'm slowly but surely transitioning his.
I think I saw some pictures of you with the black tarps and the,
totally. We're transitioning the lawn from fertilized green grass to the clover, just taking over and letting it take over. And we left a wild spot for our bunny, Sir Willis, to go play in and eat the clover. And it's so cute. Like when Hal's out mowing the lawn, the kids will come out and be like, no, leave a patch for Willis and the bees. So you could go crazy and just transition your whole entire yard into a pollinator habitat.
Okay. That's one option.
It's kind of, it's like 3 steps. So you want to have things that are blooming the whole, as long as possible, from early in the spring until way late into the late fall or even winter. Through the winter, we have English ivy that grows, and the honeybees love that. And hellebore is another one that is a winter pollen producer. On those warmer days, bees will come out and bee on that. So there's even winter flowers in Oregon. And then just cut out spraying. Instead of using chemical fertilizer, just think of other things that you can do, or any other things that you can interplant in your yard to build soil health instead of pouring chemicals onto your lawn. And then also try and find out what the natives in your area are and plant some cool, fun natives for our native bee specialists. So that's kind of, one of the flowers that I'm going to try this year are sunchokes. So I just found out that sunchokes are called sunchokes because they have like giant sunflower bushes, and they're native to North America, which is just amazing. I think they're native to North America, but they're not.
I love it.
Yeah. So sunchokes, and then you can dig up the tubers at the end of the year and eat them. And so, and they're supposed to be really easy to grow and super easy to proliferate. So next year I'm going to dig up a chunk of the lawn and try and do sunchokes and see how that works.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
The easiest thing that you can do is participate in no mow May. During May, just don't mow your lawn for a whole entire month and see what kind of weird, fun, cool things come up out of your lawn. We had I'm going to say 5, 6 different species of wildflowers just appear in our lawn out of absolutely nowhere. Different weird, cool clovers. We had 3 or 4 different kind of varieties of clover. We had bird's foot trefoil. We just had some really cool stuff coming up in the yard, and it was covered in honeybees and native bees. So just do no mow May. So fun.
That's really cool. I love that. And, you were making me think when you brought up sunchokes. There's just so many amazing plants that are bee friendly and kind of helpful to the nutrition, as you said, of the bees. So I think if we take a little time, we can still sort of have our own flavor to our own yard, whatever we want, and still be helping out the bees. So, well, Sarah, it's awesome to see you and great to have you as a guest. So thanks for joining me on Straight from the Hive.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Will you be at ABF this year?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Awesome. I'll see you there. Yeah. Come down to Kids and Bees. We'll be there Friday morning.
Sounds good. Okay.
Awesome.
Next time. Till next time. Thanks,
Bye.
Sarah.